Welcome to Asake Online. My name is Brighton Ngube. This is Know Your Right, a show that seeks to look at the Zimbabwean Constitution as well as the Bill of Rights. Over the past few weeks, we've been talking to lawyers, professionals, as well as student lawyers, talking about the issues of the constitutional awareness programs in Zimbabwe. But today on the show, we're joined by Coltart, a human rights lawyer based in Zimbabwe, talking about the rights of the arrested and the rights of the detained persons in Zimbabwe. Doug, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Brighton. Thanks very much for having me on the show. I'm doing okay.
Right, Doug. Over the past few weeks, we've been busy with the Zimbabwe human rights lawyers, like checking cases. From the 31st of July, we've been busy with people who have been arrested in Zimbabwe. Take us through what have you been doing for the past few weeks?
Yeah, there's a number of cases that I've been working on. Probably the most well-known one is the case of Hopewell Chingono. So that has had a number of different things. Of course, he was originally detained in July. There was a bail application. It went to the High Court, and we went back to the Magistrates Court after it was denied in each of those courts, and then yesterday he was denied bail again. So that's the one case. The other case I've been a bit involved in, I've been representing two young men, Terence Guta and Loveridge Chinchwende. These two guys were abducted on the 31st of July in Strathaven and taken into, they were blindfolded and taken into a bushy area, tortured for several hours before then being handed over to the police and charged with inciting public violence. So that matter is they were granted bail, and that matter is yet to go to trial.
Now, Doc, let's look at the rights of the arrested persons in Zimbabwe as well as the detained persons. Section 50 of the Constitution looks at provides that anyone who is detained has the right to communicate with and be visited by their relatives. Let's look at the case of Hopewell Chingono. What happened there in terms of communicating with their relatives as well as being given the lawyer of their choice?
Yeah, so there's a number of things to say on that. One, in terms of let's first talk about the removal of his lead counsel Beatrice Mtetwa from the case. So that was a ruling by Magistrate Nduna to say that Beatrice had scandalized the court and therefore had to be removed from the case. We strongly feel that ruling is completely wrong in law. It takes no cognizance of the accused person's right to counsel of their choice. It was based on completely bogus evidence, in that it was based upon a Facebook page which Mrs. Mtetwa doesn't even control. It's a Facebook page that belongs to the filmmakers of a documentary about her. The main case that the magistrate relied on refers to the role of prosecutors and explicitly notes the difference between the duty of prosecutors vis-a-vis the duty of defense counsel, because prosecutors prosecute for the state, they prosecute on behalf of the whole society. They have a duty to the whole society, whereas as a defense counsel has a duty particularly to their client, to the accused person, and so their roles are very different in that regard. So that the magistrate completely misapplied that judgment in our view. That judgment, which related only to Mtetwa's appearance in that case, is now being abused even by prison authorities to deny Mtetwa access to Hopewell at Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison. So that, again, is a total violation of his Section 50 rights. It's a total misinterpretation I would argue, a deliberate misinterpretation of that ruling by the magistrate. And these are just some of the rights which are being violated of Hopewell, as well as Jacob and Garibume, at Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison. Of course, we had to go to court to enforce their right of access to lawyers, to enforce their right of access to family members, to enforce their right to be brought food from outside, which was being refused from them. That we managed to obtain a high court order, but the prison authorities are still interpreting that court order in such a way which does violence to the court order. They're saying that he can only receive food from outside if it's purchased from a commercially registered kitchen and delivered through a commercially registered delivery service, which of course is placing a huge financial burden on the family, when really they should just allow him to have home-cooked meals delivered to him every day. That is what both the Constitution as well as the Prisons Act itself provides for.
Right, Doc, now let's look at when one person is arrested in Zimbabwe, what are the steps that they should take? If I'm arrested now in Zimbabwe, what do I do? What steps do I take when I'm arrested?
Well, if you're arrested, the duty actually falls on the police to inform you of your rights. These include the right to remain silent, the right to have access to a lawyer without delay, the right to be informed of the charge against you. The reality, however, is that the police virtually never actually adhere to those constitutional rights. In all my years of practicing, I have never come across a case where the police actually inform people of their rights. It's just not in our police culture, unfortunately. So it's important for citizens then to know what their rights are and to demand those rights. If the police try to make you speak, you should inform them of your right to remain silent. You should immediately demand your right to contact your lawyer, and you should demand to be informed of the charge. Unfortunately, even when you do that, often the police don't comply. Having been arrested myself, I know this, because as a lawyer, I know my rights, and I demanded all of these things, and all of them were denied me by the police. And on 2 occasions, I was assaulted by the police. Of course, that's totally unlawful. So it's important that citizens do know their rights. Make sure you have a lawyer's number saved in your phone. You can in particular have the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights hotline number saved in your phone. I can try to find that for you, and I can even share it on the program. I can find it off my phone if you'd like me to. But these are important things for citizens to do, so that you can enforce your rights.
Now, Doc, let's look at the state of prisons in Zimbabwe. Let's look at the state of prisons now in Zimbabwe, looking at the issue of water. Now there's COVID-19, the overcrowding in prison. Try to break down the state of prisons in Zimbabwe now vis-a-vis with COVID-19 in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, the state of before I go, I managed to find that hotline number. Let me just say it for your viewers. So the ZLHR hotline number is 0772 257 247. So do save that number. It's a good one to have. Now, to your question on the state of prisons, the conditions in prison are truly horrendous, and prisoners are being daily exposed to COVID-19 and other diseases as well. If we just take the example of Hopewell Chingono, he is in a cell that is designed for 12 people, but he's crammed in there with 42 other people. None of the other prisoners have masks. There is no soap in the prison, which is, of course, WHO has been hammering home that that soap and water is the most critical thing for prevention of the spread of the disease. Basically, there is no compliance with WHO requirements in our prisons. And we understand that there have actually been cases of COVID-19, not only among prisoners, but also among prison warders. And the prison warders end up posing a threat to prisoners who are stuck there. But the prison warders can come in and out. And so if they bring COVID-19 into the prisons, then with the conditions that they are, it could really spread like wildfire. And that is a huge concern for us, for Hopewell, for Jacob, now for Job, who has also been incarcerated there, Godfrey and others. That essentially these people are awaiting trial prisoners. They are innocent until proven guilty, but essentially they have been sentenced. They have received a death sentence by being sent into these COVID-19 hotspots without government taking any real precautions to protect them or other prisoners.
Now, Doc, is it constitutional to say to deny someone bail 3 times?
So the Constitution says that bail is a right, and it can only be denied where there are compelling reasons for the denial of bail. Now, in our view, there are no such compelling reasons for the denial of bail in both Jacob and Hopewell and Godfrey's cases. Of course, Job Sikala's bail hearing is yet to be heard. But in those 3 cases in particular, we really feel strongly that there are no such compelling reasons. In this latest refusal of bail, the magistrate essentially said that the goal of the 31st July protest was to remove the ZANU-PF government, and the ZANU-PF government is still in power, and therefore we cannot release Hopewell in that case, and I believe a similar thing was said in Jacob's case. We cannot release them because ZANU-PF is still in power. So essentially, the magistrate is saying these people should remain incarcerated, despite the fact that they're innocent until proven guilty. They should remain incarcerated for as long as ZANU-PF is in power. I mean, that truly is shocking, and it essentially places the political interest of a political party over the constitutional rights of citizens of Zimbabwe.
Right, the Constitution of Zimbabwe says every citizen has a right to privacy, but we saw during the case of Hopewell Chingono, the prison guard was listening, eavesdropping whilst the lawyer was consulting with Hopewell. Now let's talk about the right to privacy vis-a-vis the right of the detained or the right of the arrested.
Yeah, so there's the right to privacy, and then there's also a specific right in the Constitution around detained persons, which says that every arrested person at their own expense has the right to consult in private with a legal practitioner of their choice. So that right is very explicit in the Constitution, and it is being consistently violated by the prison services. Again, this was one of the issues that we went to the High Court because it was being violated at Chikurubi. We managed to obtain an order from the High Court saying that Hopewell and Jacob's rights to consult with their lawyers in private should be respected. But despite that ruling, we are still having exactly what you described, that every time they come to court and we try to just engage with our clients, you'll see the prison officer leaning in, coming close, listening in. That really is totally unnecessary. And every time we have to produce the court order and tell them, please give us some space. But that shouldn't be the case. The order should come from the superiors to say, this is a right that citizens have, that detained persons have. Please just respect that right, so that we don't have to tell them every time.
Care to comment on the issue of the inadequate of clothing for prisoners, and also the issue of non-availability of transport? We saw earlier last week when the truck came with Opel, they said there were reports on Twitter saying that there were no keys to open the truck. Care to comment on those issues?
Yeah, I mean, in general, our prison population is not treated with dignity. As you say, there is not adequate clothing. There is not adequate food. The transport issues mean that people are, often wait around for a very long time. And I think it's important for all of us as a nation, in fact, for us to really understand that when people are in prison, even convicted prisoners, I mean, it's a whole different ball game with awaiting trial prisoners like Hopewell and Jacob, because they are actually innocent until proven guilty. But I actually want to address this, even with convicted prisoners. The punishment for convicted criminals is the deprivation of their liberty. It's not that they should be treated like animals, that they should be deprived of every right under the sun, that they should be effectively made to go hungry. That is not, or live in deplorable conditions, be denied the right to have exercise and reading material, etc. That is not, in terms of our law, the punishment that is meant to be meted out against convicted criminals. And I think as a society, we need to stand up and say, this is wrong. This is not the way that prisoners are meant to be treated. This is not the type of punishment that they are meant to be receiving, and that each and every person has a right to dignity, whether you're a prisoner or you're not a prisoner. We all have a right to dignity, which needs to be respected.
But now, on the 31st of July, people were arrested when they were lifting their placards alone, some were even practicing social distancing, but they were arrested for that. Let's talk about the right to demonstrate peacefully in Zimbabwe, and also to petition the government. We saw Namatai Kwekwezi are being arrested for petitioning the government in terms of to constitutional amendments. But however, she was arrested. Let's comment on the issue of demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations, as well as the right to petition in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I mean, you've really put the nail on the head there. In that on 31st July, it really demonstrated so clearly that our government is willing to deny the right to peaceful protest enshrined in Section 59 of the Constitution, no matter what. Here you had people who were, number one, 100% peaceful. Number two, by themselves, not even gathering in large numbers. And number three, completely compliant with COVID-19 regulations. And yet they were still arrested, and they were charged with public violence or with inciting public violence, right? So then you start to understand what our government really means by public violence. When they are talking of public violence, they are talking of someone peacefully standing by themselves with a placard. So we as citizens also need to be aware of that, and to speak out, to say this is nonsense. This is not public violence. This is not what those provisions in the criminal law are there for. The right to peaceful protest needs to be respected, promoted, and fulfilled by government. But I think as citizens also, it's important to keep exercising those rights, despite the risks posed by an authoritarian regime like ours. People need to keep exercising those rights, and I think that's where I've been really encouraged to see how people have engaged since 31st July, have engaged in what have been dubbed the solo demos. People taking their placard, taking a photo, and posting it online. If people are afraid, covering their faces. It's still better to do that than to do nothing. Because it's a way of keeping the space open and really trying to ensure that despite the crackdown from the state, we enforce our rights.
There's a statement that has been largely used by the police in Zimbabwe that says incitement of violence. As a lawyer, can you please explain to us what is incitement of violence?
Yeah, so the way it's actually written in the law, it's as if it's like if where someone really could be prosecuted is if you know, I'm actually calling on people to take up arms, you know, to violently overthrow the government, you know. That's the sort of thing that where it's explicit, you know, where someone is actually calling on people to engage in violence, to attack people, to harm property, to harm other people. But that is almost never the case. So the people who are charged with inciting public violence, it's like this gentleman in Bulawayo, who was arrested, was it yesterday, just merely for having a face mask written "ZANU-PF must go." That is not inciting public violence. It is a legitimate exercise of freedom of expression. It's a legitimate political position to hold, to say that the party which is currently in power, which is responsible for corruption and for brutality, should leave office. That is the nature of democracy, is that parties come and go. There is nothing inciting violence simply by saying ZANU-PF must go. There is nothing inciting violence about reporting on corruption, as Hopewell did in his capacity as a journalist. There's nothing which constitutes inciting public violence for someone like Jacob, who called for peaceful demonstrations. It's just that these provisions are abused by a broken police force, and unfortunately, we see that both the prosecuting authority as well as the courts sometimes participate in this abuse of the law and the court proceedings to prosecute people who actually, where there's no crime against them. I was just discharged or acquitted last week for bogus charges brought against me simply for reading a book, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. We were charged with something similar, with participating in a gathering with the intent to promote public violence. There's no way that you can promote public violence simply by reading a book, and in any event, it's a book which has been widely used around the world in education circles. It's a book about education methods. But these kinds of things are just abused by a paranoid regime which is afraid of its own citizens.
To borrow the words of Alex Wamagaisa, says the Constitution of Zimbabwe is a constitution without constitutionalism. Care to comment on the Constitution of Zimbabwe being a constitution without constitutionalism?
Yeah, I think that's very apt. You know, we have a constitution which is quite a progressive document. Our rights are enshrined there, particularly in Chapter 4. You know, it's some of the most progressive. It's one of the most progressive Bill of Rights in the world. And yet we see that constitution being violated on a daily basis, and when it's violated, we don't see what we would hope to see, where the courts are coming to the aid of citizens and actually protecting and enforcing those rights. Of course, there are exceptions, and there have been some good court rulings handed down, you know, over the years, which have protected people's rights. Which is why, as lawyers, you know, we do continue to use the court system and to use the Constitution as we you know, as best we can, to keep fighting to open up that space, just in the same way as lawyers in other authoritarian regimes, like the apartheid regime in South Africa, even the Rhodesian regime here, where people did continue to fight to keep that space open with the rights which are enshrined in law. But certainly in Zimbabwe, we do have a case of a constitution but no constitution. constitutionalism. There's no culture of respecting the Constitution among virtually any of our government institutions.
So, Doug, as you wrap up our conversation, what's in your heart with regards to the Constitution of Zimbabwe as well as human rights?
Yeah, I think my dream is to see the Constitution fully implemented, to see all of the rights enshrined in Chapter 4 of the Constitution respected, protected, promoted, and fulfilled. That's a phrase which is used in the Constitution. The idea of a government which not only respects rights, which is like a negative obligation not to violate rights, but also encourages the promotion and development and fulfillment of rights, the flourishing of human beings. Our Constitution has all of that in it, but what it really requires is the political will of those in power to enforce it. But we will only achieve that if we, as Zimbabweans, take up the call to enforce our rights and to do so peacefully, but with force in a way. If you catch what I mean, I don't mean violent force, but we need to peacefully and non-violently carry forward our rights vigorously, to exercise them on a daily basis, and to organize ourselves to take power back to the people, so that our rights are actually respected.
Can also share the numbers for the Zimbabwe human rights lawyers. When someone is arrested, what can they call? Can also share the numbers.
Sure. Let me just pull that up again. Here is the number. It's 0772 257 247. I'll repeat that: 0772 257 247. So yeah, that's the national hotline number. There are also hotline numbers for Bulawayo and Manicaland. I don't have them offhand. I just pulled this up on the. Oh, here they are. Let me just read those so that you have those as well. The Matabeleland and Midlands hotline number is 0783 601 606, and the Manicaland and Masvingo hotline number is 0773 856 540. So, and then there's another one here for Harare and Mashonaland. It's 0784 427 922. Let me just see. There's so I don't want to take too much of your show just reading numbers. There's a couple of other numbers here. Do you want me to read them out as well?
Okay, yeah, it's okay.
Sure. So another one for Harare and Mashonaland is this one I read already. But then okay, sorry. Two more numbers for Matabeleland and the Midlands: 0773 855 635, and another one for Manicaland and Masvingo is 0773 855 718. So yeah, you can save those numbers in your phone, and if you have any legal issues which relate specifically to violation of rights, ZLHR doesn't deal with general legal consultations, but if you do have rights which are being violated and you need to urgently get hold of someone, then please do call those numbers.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Thanks very much, Brighton.
Cool. You've been watching Know Your Right, a show that seeks to look at the Zimbabwean constitution as well as the Bill of Rights. Today I was joined by Coltart, a human rights lawyer based in Zimbabwe, talking about the rights of the detained and the rights of the arrested persons in Zimbabwe. Do enjoy your day and do follow him on Twitter at Coltart, and do follow me on Twitter at RealBizFactor, and do follow site on Twitter at SiteZW. Till next time, hashtag Asake.